When you see Jensen Huang in his leather jacket on the streets of Seoul, standing next to chaebol leaders and the Korean president, it's easy to think, okay, just another tech celebrity tour. But if you connect the dots behind those photos, you start to realize something else. This trip to Korea might quietly reshape the trajectory of Korea's AI economy for years to come. This wasn't a normal visit. It was much closer to an AI industrial revolution roll call than a PR show. On this trip, Jensen Huang did several critical things. First, together with the Korean government and the major conglomerates, he essentially put a massive future compute roadmap directly on the table. The Korean government, together with companies like Samsung, Hyundai, SK, Naver, and others, is planning to deploy hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA's latest generation GPUs. These chips will power national AI computing centers, enterprise supercomputers, and AI platforms for different industries. What does that really mean? It means Korea doesn't just want to buy some cloud services and play with AI as a concept anymore. It has decided that at the compute layer, it wants to push itself into the world's first tier. Second, he aligned with the Korean government on a key idea: sovereign AI. Sovereign AI, in simple terms, means core compute must live inside the country. Key large models must be controlled locally. Data and algorithms cannot be completely at the mercy of foreign cloud providers. Korea already had plans for a national AI computing center, but now it's effectively upgrading that plan in partnership with NVIDIA. NVIDIA brings the most powerful GPUs, and Korea brings national-level projects and real industry scenarios. Together, they start building a serious AI infrastructure backbone for the country. Third, he sat down with Samsung to talk about the real upstream lifelines. Samsung is already a global giant in memory and semiconductors. But this round of discussion sounds much more like how much of NVIDIA's high-bandwidth memory, advanced packaging, and even potential foundry work can Samsung take on. In other words, NVIDIA is leading the race in AI chips, and Samsung is trying to become one of the key suppliers of the critical parts that make this AI engine run. If that deep partnership really lands, Korea's position in the AI semiconductor supply chain will be pushed up another level. It won't just be a memory powerhouse anymore. It will become a core piece of the AI infrastructure powerhouse puzzle. Fourth, he talked with Hyundai about the next generation factory and the next generation car. Hyundai doesn't only want to build cars that can move. It wants to use AI to rewrite its entire value chain. The plan is to use NVIDIA's GPUs and platforms to build Hyundai's own AI supercomputing systems, which will be used for autonomous driving training, vehicle simulation, digital twins of factories, and control of robots and logistics systems. In other words, in the future, Hyundai may no longer see itself simply as an automotive company, but as a mobile robotics and intelligent factory company. And finally, Jensen Huang met with the Korean president and senior officials, lifting these company-level collaborations up to the level of national strategy. When the top leadership starts publicly saying, Korea has what it takes to be an AI powerhouse, and we will tightly integrate with NVIDIA in compute, semiconductors, and manufacturing. That means one thing: from policy to capital to public narrative. AI will become one of Korea's main storylines for the coming years. So what exactly will all of this do to Korea's AI economy? Let's start with the most fundamental shift: the jump in compute power. In the past, when people thought about Korea and AI, they often imagined a few internet companies doing translation, search, or chatbots. But when it came to training large-scale models, running massive simulations, or powering robot intelligence, compute was still relatively limited. Once these hundreds of thousands of GPUs are deployed, Korea will move from struggling for enough compute to having the ability to export AI services to the world. That brings three direct changes. First, AI startups won't be killed by no GPUs so easily anymore. Previously, many teams had good ideas and good data, but no budget for serious GPU clusters. They had to rent foreign cloud, which was expensive, slow, and tricky from a data governance perspective. In the future, they can simply use domestic AI computing platforms, training large models and industry-specific models inside Korea's borders. That dramatically improves innovation efficiency. Second, sensitive and strategic data can stay on home soil. Medical imaging, financial risk data, government services data, handing all of that to foreign cloud providers always comes with a sense of unease. With sovereign AI and national compute centers, Korea can train large models tailored to its own language, its own laws, and its own industry needs entirely within its own territory, both safer and more controllable. Third, Korea shifts from being mainly an AI consumer to being an AI capability exporter. It won't just buy AI from others. It can offer a Korean AI cloud plus industry solution combo to partners abroad and compete with other AI powers on a global stage. Next, let's look at the structural changes around Samsung and Hyundai. For Samsung, this is a chance to move from selling parts to selling full solutions. In the old model, Samsung's role in semiconductors was largely to make memory, storage, or some chips, then sell them to system builders who assembled servers and sold full systems to customers. In this new AI wave, Samsung has the opportunity to become much more of a system-level player, not only providing HBM, high-speed storage, and server hardware, but also pushing its own AI chips, software stacks, and data center solutions as a complete package. When a country owns a full chain from chips to systems to cloud platforms, its position in the global industrial landscape shifts from being just a supplier to becoming a real rule-shaping participant. For Hyundai, this transformation looks more like a deep self-reinvention. Autonomous driving is not just add a few cameras to the car. It needs enormous volumes of driving data, simulation, model training, and constant iteration. An intelligent factory isn't just put a few robots on the line. It's about building a full digital twin of the plant in virtual space, simulating thousands of scenarios, and then pushing the optimal configuration back into the physical world. When Hyundai uses NVIDIA's compute and platforms to connect all of these capabilities, it evolves from a traditional automaker into an AI-driven manufacturing and mobility platform. For Korea's AI economy, that means this in areas like autonomous driving, industrial robotics, and smart manufacturing, fields deeply tied to the real economy. Korea has a chance not only to keep up, but to lead. At the national level, the changes will reach even deeper. When the government pours major funding into AI computing centers and opens that compute to universities, research institutes, and small and medium-sized enterprises, the research ecosystem itself will be reshaped. Professors and students won't be limited to tiny models and small experiments. They'll be able to join truly world-class work on multimodal models, robotic intelligence, and AI for biomedicine. And the speed at which research results turn into real products and startups will accelerate. In industry, AI will no longer be just a toy for internet companies. It will gradually permeate semiconductors, automotive, chemicals, energy, logistics and ports, finance, healthcare, and entertainment. In each of these sectors, a group of companies will start using AI to boost efficiency, cut costs, and invent new business models. The job market will change too. Growth in traditional manufacturing roles may slow, but new roles will grow rapidly. AI engineers, compute infrastructure engineers, data cleaning and labeling specialists, AI product managers, and industry AI solution consultants. Above all, those who understand both manufacturing and AI, the hybrid talent pool, will become extremely valuable in Korea's future. So what does this all mean for Korea's startup ecosystem and for ordinary companies? For founders, this is a rare window. The general-purpose large model layer is already heavily contested by giants from the US and China. But Korea has its own strengths: manufacturing, automotive, gaming, film and TV, and K-pop cultural content. The most promising direction is the growth of startups focused on vertical industry models. Some will build AI brains for smart factories. Others will focus on models for autonomous fleets and mobility. Some will specialize in game content and virtual character generation. Others will serve Korea's local finance, healthcare, and government scenarios. If these companies can truly dominate one focused vertical and ride on top of the AI infrastructure being laid down by the state and the chaebols, they'll have a real chance to grow big, not just remain as slogans in pitch decks. For small and medium businesses, the change feels more like a wave of tool and service upgrades as local cloud providers like Naver launch more AI SaaS offerings on top of this new compute. SMEs won't need their own data centers, their own servers, or their own in-house model teams. They'll simply pay per use for voice bots, text generation, quality control analytics, predictive maintenance, and more. For them, this looks less like an AI layoff storm and more like a broad productivity upgrade. But none of this comes free of risks. The first risk is heavy dependence on NVIDIA. When a country's compute, software stack, and ecosystem are all deeply tied to a single company, any major change, supply shortages, price hikes, export controls, or a sudden shift in architecture can put the country in a passive position. That means Korea, while enjoying the rapid growth that NVIDIA enables, must also invest in domestic chips, heterogeneous compute, and multiple suppliers as backup paths to hedge against that single vendor risk. The second risk is over-concentration of resources at the very top. Government policies, capital, and flagship projects will almost naturally flow toward giants like Samsung, SK, Hyundai, and Naver. If there aren't enough mechanisms to support smaller players, many technically strong creative teams may find themselves locked out of the real action. Over the long term, that would hurt the diversity and long-term dynamism of the entire ecosystem. The third risk is geopolitical uncertainty. Korea's AI stack will increasingly lean on US-centric technology, but in terms of markets, supply chains, and geography, it sits right next to China. As major powers argue or clash over chips, cloud, and cross-border data, Korea will often be forced into very difficult choices. Balancing technical progress, industrial security, and national interest in that environment will be a long-term challenge. At this point, we can boil the meaning of Jensen Huang's trip to Korea down to a single plain sentence. This trip wasn't just a business visit. It pushed Korea from the role of AI parts supplier and contract manufacturer to that of a serious contender for AI infrastructure powerhouse. In the next 3 to 5 years, Korea's presence in fields like autonomous driving, industrial robotics, smart manufacturing, and AI semiconductors may grow much more visible. For the world, this is part of the broader reshuffling of the global AI landscape. For Korea, it's a high-stakes bet that leans on semiconductors, automotive, and national-level resources. And for everyone working in traditional industry, manufacturing, new energy, or content, this sends a very clear signal. The age of AI is no longer just a story about a handful of internet companies. It is becoming a deep restructuring of everything, from chips to factories to cars to cities to every industry around us. Korea has just taken a big step forward. From here on, who finds their place in this new industrial revolution will depend on who understands it earlier and who moves faster.